Hello. I'm going to install Kaspersky Antivirus 8 for Linux file server onto Red Hat Enterprise 7. We'll start off with setting up just a basic file server running Samba, which is typically what you'll have in as a file server. So we're just registering our subscription to Red Hat with this command here, which is what you'd normally do with a freshly installed version of Red Hat Enterprise 7. So obviously you'd put your real username and password in here for your login that you would have for the Red Hat website. Then after you've done that, you just move on to this second line here where I'll attach the various subscriptions that you may have purchased or selected a trial of, which I'll do right now. You can take a moment to register this bit. And now we'll go ahead and install Samba and our file server shall be ready. I won't go into finishing setting up a full file server with shares and whatnot across your network. That's for another day. We basically just need a file server set up so we can demonstrate deploying our Kaspersky antivirus from the Security Center. And now to allow Samba through the firewall. And now we simply restart the firewall for the changes to take effect. And now we have a typical file server running Samba, and we can go ahead and start installing our security software. There is some files you need to download first off, like the Kaspersky software itself, which consists of all those files there, which you can obtain from this website here. You just download the Red Hat specific stuff and the Management Console plugin. You'll also need 7-zip, which you can download from here, and PuTTY, so you'll be able to remote control the command line on the Linux server, which you can download from here. And we'll go ahead and install 7-zip. Which only takes a moment to install. And then we shall prepare the file here by extracting, that is the files you'll need for adding the antivirus to the security center. And you'll need to further extract this file that was inside. And then we grab the file antivirus RPM there and pop that inside the extracted folder, that one right here. We shall then go to the security center, then the remote installation packages section. We'll choose to create a new package. We'll choose that top option there. We'll call it something related to do with the Kaspersky Antivirus 8. Just anything so that you'll recognize what it is. And then we go to that extracted folder, and you shall see in there's this KPD file right there. So you select that and open it up and go next. Yeah, agree to that. And it will add the package to the security center. You can just next your way through these if you like. And there, done. It should now appear in the list. And now we do the same for the network agent. You can't deploy the network agent from the security center, but this will add it to the shared folder, which will make sense later on. So we extract the network agent files for the security center, like before, and then grab the network agent RPM and copy that into the extracted folder like so. Then, like before, we go back to the installation packages section of the security center, choose that top option there. We give it a name related to the Kaspersky network agent for Linux, just so we know what it is. Then go to that extracted folder that we created for the network agent and select the KPD file that's in there. And continue on just like before. And it should now appear in the list as well. Now we'll install the management plugin. This will give you the ability to create policies and tasks for the antivirus once you have it installed. You need to restart the console like so after adding the plugin, just to make sure it's loaded. And you can confirm that it has the plugin by going down to this section here, and you should see it at the top there, or at least somewhere in that list. And we can go into this section here and start this update procedure here to download the updates to the repository of the security center. That will get it downloading any additional packages that it needs for the Kaspersky Antivirus 8 for Linux. Now we shall open up PuTTY so we can prepare the Red Hat server for deployment. So we shall obtain the IP address like so using the ifconfig command, and then we'll go back to our PuTTY session over here and we can enter the IP address into the box there so we can log in remotely. You can do this all locally, of course, but if you have many computers or you need to log in remotely over a VPN connection, for example, then the use of PuTTY can be quite convenient. So we want to start installing some dependencies that are required by the antivirus. And as you can see, the command didn't work because I was not logged in as a root user. So we'll just switch over to the root user and we shall try that command again. And there it goes. Now there's a few dependencies that Red Hat doesn't come with that we'll need to add. It's about 4 all up, roughly. That's not including adding the development packages and the new kernel, which I'll demonstrate after I install these other dependencies. So we'll need to install the Linux kernel development packages, as there is a module in the actual antivirus itself that needs to be compiled from source. So we need these kernel source code in order for that to happen. And when you've updated the development packages for the kernel, you need the matching kernel for those development packages. So here we are going to update the kernel to match the development packages. And now we reboot the Linux server, so the new kernel will take effect. And as you can see, it's logged us out of PuTTY, so we'll need to log in again once that's finished loading. And we just log back into PuTTY. And we are going to add a new group and a new user, and we're going to add that user to the group. There's a shared folder on the Security Center called KL Share. When we uploaded the network agent into the Security Center, it would have placed a copy in that shared folder. So we are going to create a folder here to mount a Samba share to. And then we'll use the mount command to mount the KL shared folder on the Security Center computer to our Red Hat server. Which, if you have Samba installed, which you generally do on a file server, if it's a Linux file server, then that should work fine. Now you can use other ways of copying the network agent RPM across. I will show how to do this using FileZilla at the end of the video, for anyone who's unsure how. So what you can probably see I'm doing here, you enter the path to the shared folder on the network, and then the path to the folder we created with the previous command. Ultimately, we want to see these files. That's the shared folder there locally on the Security Center. And we'll do a directory listing of our share location, and yes, we have the same folders, so that worked perfectly. We shall next want to go inside the packages folder, so we CD our way into there. And then we proceed to look for the network agent for Linux, which should be that one there. Inside there is an RPM, and that's what we'll need to run. So we'll go in there and we shall execute the command to install the RPM for the network agent. Like so. The -U means to upgrade, so if there was a previous version on there, it'll upgrade it to the newest version. And now we have to run the script to configure the network agent now that it's installed. The only entry you will need to fill in here once we run the script is the IP address. Which we can just get from our Security Center right there. The next options are just what ports to use. It's pretty rare that anyone needs to change those ports. And the other settings you can just continue your way through. And next we'll need to allow the network agent through the firewall. So there are 3 ports we need to open. There's 13,000, 14,000 and 15,000. 13,000 and 14,000 are TCP and 15,000 is UDP. If you wish to confirm those ports, you can do so via the Security Center. Because we've added the network agent package into the Security Center, if we go into the settings and we go to the connection settings, you'll see the 13,000 and the 14,000 and the 15,000 here at the bottom that's listed as UDP. The other two are TCP. Now we shall reload the firewall, so those firewall settings will take place. And we shall do a test now to make sure the network agent is actually talking to the security center. And yes, it's connecting okay. We have OKs. That is great. That means we are able to deploy software via the security center onto this Red Hat server. So we shall find our Red Hat server in our unassigned devices here. We'll just check that IP address, make sure we've got the right computer. And yes, it matches up, that's the one. And we'll create a new managed group for our Red Hat server. We'll put it into a file server group. Just drag it up there like so. We'll right click on our computer, we go to all tasks, create a task, and we'll call it something relevant to deploying the antivirus remotely. And on the next window, we scroll right to the bottom and choose to install applications remotely. Find the Kaspersky Antivirus 8 for Linux file server in the list. We don't need the network agent. We don't really need to choose anything there. We don't need to change anything here. We can run the task straight after we finish, so we can tick that box, and there it goes. It may take some time to install. Now I'm expecting an error once it's finished installing because we have no activation key installed yet, so it will fail at doing a database update, which it does during its installation. That will be fine. It will still install just fine. We add a key at the end and then it'll do a database update and then it'll be happy. So here you can see, yes, it's finished installing. It's waiting for the product to initialize. There's a warning there, and it's related to it not being able to do a database update because there was no activation key yet. So what we'll do next is we'll create a new task to activate the product. So we go down to create a task just like before. We call it something relevant to activating the Kaspersky Antivirus 8 for Linux file server. On the next window, when it gets there, is we find the Kaspersky Antivirus 8 for Linux file server in the list and choose to add a key. You'll need to browse to your key file. You won't be able to select it from the Security Center repository. You have to actually find the file and add it yourself. Which is that one there. Yes, that's the one. And yeah, the key looks fine. We'll choose to run the task after we finished, and there it goes. It's pushing the key out. This may take a short moment. Doesn't take too long. There, it's now activated. And you can see our deployment task is finished there as well. And it's still saying there was an issue, which is due to the databases that haven't been updated yet. And as you can see here, the antivirus is now showing as installed in the Security Center. So now we'll create a policy. The policy is so you can remotely manage the settings in the Kaspersky Antivirus 8 for FileZilla. So give the policy a name that's relevant so you know what it's for. Choose the Kaspersky Antivirus 8 for Linux file server from the list. Here you need to specify at least a folder for the antivirus to protect. I'm just going to put in the whole file system just with that slash there. But you can just select the shared folders you have for your file server. The rest of the settings you don't really need to change anything for now. But you can always go into the policy and adjust that all later. Now we're going to create a task for updating the databases. There can be multiple updates a day. So you want your database updates to happen quite frequently. So after giving it a relevant name, we find the Kaspersky Antivirus 8 for Linux in the list and choose Update. Can just move on from that bit there. Now here you can choose whether you want to copy the updates into a folder of some sort or just download the updates for the program itself. So I'll just choose the default there, and you'll want a schedule. I'll tell it to download as soon as there's new updates available, which can be multiple times a day, and we'll tell it to start the task as soon as we click finish, as we need those databases updated immediately for the real-time protection to start. It may take some time to update the database for the first time. It is a big download. The ongoing daily updates are actually quite small. Oh, don't worry about that. I just haven't given enough CPU power to the VM. But it's still rocking along. Now the update is finished. Because of the way we went about this, you'll usually need to go into here, find the real-time protection, and then click the play button up the top right corner to start it if it has not started. Alternatively, restarting the antivirus, or rebooting your Red Hat file server, or if you had a key embedded into the installation, then the real-time protection will no doubt start then as well. And as promised, I'll show you how to use FileZilla to transfer files to and from your Red Hat server from another computer using a file browser instead of the command line. Now it's using the SSH features of Red Hat which were pre-installed. So we'll just get the IP address. You put your IP address in there. You put your login username there like root, and put in your root password or whatever user you've logged in as, and you put port 22, which is your SSH port. And there you go, you can now happily browse the file system on your Red Hat server on the right, and whichever computer you are locally on the left, and you can copy files back and forth to your heart's content. And there's another program called WinSCP that essentially achieves the same objective of copying files to and from a Red Hat server or a Linux server from a Windows computer using a file browser. Now you'll see we have some existing tasks here that we've created. You can reuse those tasks without having to create new ones whenever you want to do another deployment. You simply right click on the computer you want to deploy to and choose run a task, and you'll see those tasks in the list, and it will change the assigned computer for that task to whichever computer you've chosen now. And that concludes our video. All the best and happy computing!